NPS Now, your source for news and information about Norfolk Public Schools. I'm your host, Karen Tanner, and with me today is two special guests, Dr. King, Superintendent of Norfolk Schools, and School Board Chair, Dr. Kirk T. Houston Sr. Welcome, gentlemen, to NPS Now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back on again, and we're going to have you on again and again as we keep talking about Norfolk Public Schools and the great things that we're doing here. Recently, we got our SWL test results back and our scores, and there's a lot of positives and a lot of challenges. Share with us today what some of those positive challenges and activities and things that we're going to be doing this year.
Well, I'll begin by saying overall, I would say we experienced growth in approximately 40 out of 45 schools, at least in one or more areas. So, you know, that's a positive piece for us. When you consider the challenge, however, we must have consistent growth. And what I mean by that is when you start at a certain baseline in terms of seeking 100% accreditation, we must move from the baseline to what I refer to as the absolute target, which is the state's benchmark. And in many cases, there are examples whereby we must post incremental, constant improvement and increases to get us to that absolute bar. So while it is positive that we can say that we had improvement across the board, basically, there's still huge challenges because that particular increase will not necessarily get us to where we want to be ultimately. So we have to have that continuously and consistently. And so that's what we look for.
And we kicked off the school year with a special event at Norfolk Scope where we got all of our staff members together, and we even had one of our own be the motivational speaker that day.
Yes.
What were your thoughts from that event?
Oh, I thought it was a great start, great start. The responses from certified and classified staff, those responses have been very positive. My purpose for the beginning as it relates to the convocation really for this year centered on motivation, centered on saying thank you to teachers in the classroom, which is where the rubber meets the road. And if you would notice the recognitions for growth really centered on the students and the kind of growth that we experience across subject areas and also across areas that I describe as areas where we are going to have to continue to defy the norm with student subgroups. So I think it was a great start, and we look forward to doing that again.
And you were there shaking hands with some of the award winners and some of the categories, Dr. Houston, and I'm sure you were proud as the board representative there.
I thought that was an excellent way to begin this school year by acknowledging and celebrating those wonderful outcomes from the SOLs from last year. And I commend the superintendent and the leadership team for taking that approach. People were excited. The principals and those they brought along with them to receive the awards came up with high energy, and I think that they appreciated being appreciated and acknowledged for their good work. And so the positive energy filled the room as we celebrated those positive outcomes.
And there were some great percentage points of academic excellence that happened. What are some of the categories they were being recognized for that day?
Several categories. I will begin by pinpointing the full accreditation piece because that's our number one priority. And we had a list of schools that achieved full accreditation. So we recognize those schools because for obvious reasons, that's related to the percentage of students meeting and exceeding standards. We also had an additional category that we refer to as the Superintendents Defying the Norm Award. The category related to accreditation was called the Superintendent's Cornerstone Award. The Defying the Norm Award really relates to growth within subgroups, across subgroups. We have multiple subgroups within the division, and so we want to see the aggregate growth across the total, but as you disaggregate the data down to individual student subgroups, we also must see growth within those. So we recognized those areas as well, as well as attendance, student attendance, as well as teacher attendance, as well as culture and climate. All of those areas were important items for us. And I do believe that it really pinpointed what we value as an organization, and so I think that's important.
You think the morales were high, Dr. Houston?
Oh, most definitely. And I heard very, very positive comments the days that followed, where people really appreciated, again, that approach. And just a big thank you and congratulations for the good work. I think motivates us as we have gone now into this year.
And in order to do this, Dr. King, you have to have some professional development going on in order for us to keep trending forward.
Sure.
What type of professional and planning and development is going to help us this year?
Well, two key areas. One, excuse me, centering on leadership, effective leadership at the building level, and we will continue to provide the professional learning opportunities and professional development opportunities that are scientifically based in terms of research-based activities to ensure that we are getting better and better with leading, and that's important. And that includes the superintendent, that includes central level. However, the rubber meets the road in the school building. And so effective leadership in the school building, in addition to effective leadership as far as the professional development piece, it is of paramount importance that we continue to focus on teacher effectiveness, not just highly qualified teachers, but highly effective teaching, which for me as a superintendent, it really centers on how do you get high yield results where students retain knowledge at a much higher level. And so there are certain teacher behaviors that we want to see across the board in each classroom and in each school in that regard. So professional development that will relate to those two areas, in addition to the themes that are connected to many of our transformation efforts as well.
So what type of professional development are the teachers receiving? I know you mentioned about the leaders, but is it like a mixture?
Yes, yes. I would like to think that we're getting better with what I refer to as differentiating our professional development, because every school is different, every staff is different, and so we must analyze the needs across staffs as we analyze the needs across student populations. And once we do so, we determine implications for professional development. And so professional development decision making as far as training should be based on that. And that's what we're doing. As I mentioned earlier, we are getting better and better with doing so, because it has to be customized. And I'll give you a key example around the teacher effectiveness piece and retention of knowledge via the student. It really centers on the research that states that students retain knowledge at a much higher level when you serve as the teacher as facilitator, and the activities within the classroom are very student-focused activities where students are engaged in small group conversation around essential questions related to the curriculum. And as I make my visits to classrooms, I want to hear healthy noise where students are engaged in robust conversations. And the teacher serves as that facilitator to ensure that the discussions are centering on the elements of the standard that are important. So professional development that would allow us to do that, because that's how students learn best in that way.
And as school board chair, what are your thoughts about what we're doing? I think we're really working very hard. Just listening to what he's saying on professional development. What are your thoughts as school board chair about what we're doing in professional development?
Well, you know, one of the main responsibilities of the school board is the stewardship of the area of the budget. And so first and foremost, it's our responsibility to ensure that an appropriate amount of the budget is designated for professional development based on the needs that the superintendent communicates to the board. So we understand the importance and significance of professional development in the outcomes of student achievement. And of course, periodically, we get very detailed reports about the type of professional development that's being provided for both the leaders as well as the teachers in the classroom. And I think we're putting forth the right efforts, and it's an ongoing process. I mean, it's managed, it's not cured, but I feel personally as though we're moving in the right direction. And I think the outcomes from last year are indicators of that.
Right, and I think we really excited the teachers when we brought a world-renowned educator here in Norfolk, Dr. Harry Wong. How do you think that positively affected our first-year teachers?
I think it's key. I think it's a prime example of the fact that we are true to the action steps in the strategic plan. because the action steps in the strategic plan really centers on professional development again, but research-based professional development. And Harry Wong is a key example of the tenets of success around teaching and learning. And so for teachers to be exposed to that, I think action speaks louder than words. So that's very important.
Mm-hmm. And also, as school board chair, what are you looking for from teachers, students, parents, and staff this year with our students academically?
Yeah. You know, the longer I serve on the board, the more I both understand and appreciate the complicated nature of this work, and how it requires people at multiple levels to be engaged and to all play our part. So the school board has a part to play in the area of vision casting and leadership and support. Of course, the superintendent and the senior leadership team has a role to play, as well as building level leaders, teachers and support staff. And so in terms of the staff and the employees, we expect total engagement and commitment in this work. Understanding every day how important it is that we bring quality leadership and education in those classrooms to our children.
Right.
We expect our students to come to school prepared to learn, ready to learn with the necessary supplies, and prepared to manage themselves in ways that significant learning and teaching can take place in the classroom. And we certainly expect engagement from our parents. And so it's a role that all of us have to play, and time would not permit, in this segment to really talk about the significant role that each of us must play in the success of our students. But if we all give 100%, if we are all, if we engage in introspection and really understand what role we play and how significant our responsibilities are, and working together as partners, and one of the things that happens each year, of course, the PTA meetings where we try to get parents in along with the school board to talk about major issues so that we can answer questions and hold each other accountable for the work. And so that work of the PTA in kind of providing that bridge of connecting parents and families to the work of educating the children is significant as well. And so public education is a complicated undertaking, but I think together we can get it done.
I do too.
Yeah.
And on that point, we're just going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back for more NPS Now. Welcome back to NPS Now. Dr. Houston, I want to come to you. I don't think I gave you a chance to answer this particular question. From your perspective as school board chair, what are your perspectives on the scores and the challenges that we've had? You heard him just talk about some professional development, but what are your thoughts?
Well, we were definitely pleased with the areas of growth. I mean, all progress is good. And we know the last couple of years, the administration, along with partnership with VDOE and others, worked on aligning the curriculum with the SOLs and making sure that we were teaching what needed to be taught as it relates to the standards in the classrooms. And I think this year was evidence, this past year was evidence that we're moving in the right direction. And so it's so important to celebrate those gains. I think new esteem was gained from it, both with the students as well as the teachers and principals and all. And so, but we also recognize those areas of challenge and the need for consistent growth. Right. And so we've never denied the challenges that we have. And I said at a school board meeting recently that I think you can celebrate your growth while at the same time maintaining focus and being sober about the challenges and the need for continued growth and development.
And Dr. King, you heard him speak about the board's, or in his perspective, expectations for students, teachers, staff, and even parents. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. It's a requirement that we have all hands on deck. And it's very clear that in order to do the work at such a high level, which is what we have to do, we need the involvement of all stakeholders. parents, business owners, faith-based, clergy, healthcare, law enforcement, all of the above, coming together around the same purpose, mission, and vision to really see the whole notion come into fruition, as we talk many times about making our school division the cornerstone of a proudly diverse community. That's what it's going to have to entail, is to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're making great strides in our academic offerings, and now we're going to be able to offer Open Campus High School. Share some information about that with us, please.
Well, Open Campus High School is an opportunity I refer to as a non-traditional opportunity for students, and a much needed opportunity for students. It allows us, in my view, to fill a void that is in place in terms of, for example, I call it a three-prong approach. We will be able to address the needs at the middle school level, where we have over age for grade student programs in the middle school right at this point. We really need to ramp up how we address the needs of those students and put them on a process that will allow them to be self-paced, at the same time accelerate plugging the gaps and deficiencies for those students. That's that first prong, and to get them on track. So this gives us an opportunity to work collaboratively with the parent and to have those students attend Open Campus in order to do so. The second prong for me centers on the high school student that is behind on credits, behind to the point that they cannot mathematically catch up on a traditional high school setting, in a traditional high school setting. So Open Campus offers the opportunity to accelerate that process in terms of giving those students their plan based on their individual needs as well, and designed to get them back on track in terms of a self-paced model where you look at the credits that they need to recover and link that to the SOL. Also, the same type of high standards that are required across the board in traditional schools will be the same type of high standard assessment environment that we'll have for that prong as well. So the student that's behind on credits on the high school grounds to the point they can't get caught up on traditional setting, we'll be able to address the needs of those students. The last piece will be the dropout piece. So to attract back and entice back students that have dropped out, and to not focus heavily on GED, but focusing heavily on giving those students the necessities to secure high school diplomas. So the bottom line centers on continuing to increase on-time graduation, focusing on college and career readiness for all students, as well as decreasing the dropout rate for us. So we're excited about the opportunity to begin to address the needs. We're going to have to move slowly with it because it's anything that you do that requires change. You will have a bit of turbulence, so we know that. So we want to move slowly and methodically in a way that we ensure quality as we roll out such a non-traditional program.
And this is a premier concept for Norfolk Public Schools, and I'm sure the board has been eagerly watching and seeing how this was going to play out.
Well, of course, it was presented to us last summer as a part of the Transformation Initiative, and so we had an opportunity to learn about the concept and hear from representatives from the Magic Johnson and Bridgescape programs to really get an in-depth understanding of exactly how Open Campus, the Open Campus model works, who are the target groups as it relates to our student population, and the superintendent mentioned, of course, those high school students that are behind in credits, those who have already dropped out being reclaimed, as well as the overage for grade middle school students. So one of the things I believe in our urban setting with the kind of unique challenges that we have, we certainly have to be open to very creative and innovative strategies and approaches to educating our children, and we believe this is one of them. And as the superintendent just mentioned, it's not without its challenges, and so moving slowly and methodically, I agree, is the approach. But I believe we can get some positive outcomes if we're able to really manage the process and identify early the weaknesses and challenges and seek to overcome them. And I think as we get some wins in this area, that more students will be motivated to participate in the open campus program, and that we'll be able to get more resources, more money to support the efforts as we seek to expand it in the year or years to come.
And I know you've been a recipient of being involved with an open campus in your previous school district.
Yes.
You know how the success it could be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, what we roll out, we want it to be proven, and so this is another example of that. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We know that this works. However, it works when you implement with fidelity, as with any undertaking, and that's what we plan to do. You know, and the whole notion for us, I'll add, across the board, not just for open campus, but for the entire needs around our organization, really centers on closing the achievement gap, and that's a challenge for us in terms of the work that needs to be done. But we see clear examples of focusing on that at the individual school level as well as at the central level. So we look to continue that work as well.
And not only are we trying to retain graduates and catch them in those middle years and high school years for graduation purposes, but we're capturing them in pre-K.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about what we're doing with our pre-K program here in Norfolk Schools?
Well, the research is very clear about how important those early years are. And so expanding our opportunities for as many children in the city as possible is most definitely the direction we have to go in. Unfortunately, we're not able to offer it to every child that needs it in pre-K here in the city. But I think we're on the right track in terms of expanding it. And then, of course, I'm sure at some point you'll talk more about the reconfiguration of the schools with the primary intermediate schools and that focus on literacy at that early age, so that we can make sure that our children are reading on time and on grade level, because we know that everything else in education builds upon those literacy and reading skills.
Right. And we're doing something innovative this year. Do you want to share a little bit about what we're doing with the pre-K?
Sure. Each year we've had an opportunity to add additional early learning programs, 3- and 4-year-old programs, and so we're excited about that for obvious reasons. You heard the board chair mention the notion of early learning and how it links to literacy and preparing children to read, reading readiness. We want our students to, once they enter the doors at the kindergarten level, to have the necessary skills to be ready to hit the ground running, because those gaps that I alluded to earlier, they don't magically appear once students arrive at school. There's a process involved in making students aware from a phonemic standpoint, as well as letter and number recognition, all of the above. And so we've had the opportunity to enter into reconfiguration with 4 of our schools and pairing them to the point that we have pre-K 2 configuration as well as a 3, 4, 5 configuration. And pre-K 2 is simply focusing on reading readiness as well as all of the SOL, of course, related subject matter. 3, 4, 5 is really focusing on, after you secure the reading readiness piece, it's focusing on reading to learn, and which is very important. So the notion is to have our students reading on grade level and above by the end of 3rd grade. We want 100% of our students there. And we know that if we do so, that's a long-term fix, but it is the answer to all of the challenges around accreditation and increasing the percentage of students meeting and exceeding standards.
It's reading to learn and learning to read.
Yes.
That's a great concept, and I think parents should catch on to that. What do you think about parents and this new concept of reading to learn and learning to read?
Yeah, you know, parents have to be continuously educated. Let's face it, all of our parents have different levels of education, and some understand the importance of children being read to very early on in life. I mean, from the time of birth, actually, we should be reading to our children, and some of our parents understand that and practice and implement it in their homes, and unfortunately, others do not. And so a part of educating our children includes educating the parents. We have Parent University, of course, here in the NPS, and a big part of their faith-based initiative with the partnership with the faith-based organizations. I would like to make sure that it includes that parent training piece. I think that's something that faith-based organizations can do well, reaching into those communities, partnering with the schools to really make sure that our parents understand their work and their responsibilities and how important that early learning and reading to children is in those very early years.
And I'm glad you re-emphasized that, because now the City of Norfolk and Norfolk Public Schools is going to partner and have Neighborhood Expo on September 20th. It won't be Parent University, but be components and pieces where the city and the school system is coming and bringing neighbors and communities together, and the parents to talk about the importance of pre-K and what we're going to be doing here at Open Campus. And I know we have some other efforts that are coming up with transformation. Did you want to share with us real quick, about 30 seconds, with some upcoming efforts that we have going on?
Sure. We are in the midst of repurposing Lafayette Winona. So we closed that particular school to begin that whole effort. And it will center on our first opportunity to offer district-wide choice once it is complete. We're excited about that and about the opportunities that it will afford the families across the city of Norfolk, and focus on pre-IB and International Baccalaureate and the readiness around that. And I mention that because that simply relates to rigor, and rigor is very important in terms of being having an opportunity to expose each and every student to the rigorous process of learning. And I mention that because that is the piece that will ensure that we reach the college and career readiness piece. High expectations for all students, but differentiating and ensuring that students are growing at their own pace and mastering those standards. So we're excited about that piece as well.
Right. So our 5-year strategic plan, we are
We're in phase 1, year 2.
Phase 1, year 2.
Yes.
Make sure that's right. And if parents want more information about our strategic plan, they're welcome to come to our website.
Absolutely.
And find that information.
Absolutely.
Right,
as well as update on many of the things that we mentioned around the gains that we've made, as well as the challenges. You can visit the website to see that and how it links to the strategic plan. So.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on the show today,
Sure.
giving us a great update on our positives and challenges and update on Open Campus. But real quick, how or when are we thinking about starting Open Campus?
Well, we're going to base that on our efforts to build the student bodies.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is we're making contacts now with the appropriate families, and based on the caseloads. So we have caseloads of students across each high school, caseloads of students across the middle school, and we have a caseload for students that have dropped out. And so we have a committee that, as I speak, that is in the process of making contact with those parents to describe the program, to talk to them about the benefits of the program, and to work to get students registered to begin. So we're going to go at our own pace with that. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll be ready to begin with the first round and first sessions for students.
Because I'm sure after they watch this show, they'll be like, oh, okay, when does it start? I want to get my son or daughter signed up. So great. Again, thank you for coming on NPS Now today. We really appreciate you, and we want to thank you for watching NPS Now. It airs weekly on WNPS, Channel 47, or you can view us online at www.npsk12.com. Or if you have any great story ideas or information you'd like to share, email us at npsnews@npsk12.com. Again, thank you for watching NPS Now.